Yesterday we have completed the yesterday we have completed till here the key features of sound. Now today I am going to be teach you about the history of psychology of science. Okay. यहाँ पे हम उसके हिस्ट्री के बारे में देखेंगे ना, हिस्ट्री ऑफ साइकोलॉजिकल साइंस, राइट. So psychology begins as a branch of philosophy. The origin of psychology dates back ancient Greek. Psychology did not emerge directly as a science. Psychology was a branch of philosophy until 1870. देखो 1870 तक ये जो साइकोलॉजी जो एक डिपार्टमेंट अलग है वो पहले फिलोसॉफी का पार्ट था. ओके. फिलोसॉफी एक डिफरेंट ब्रांच है, उसके अंदर अलग अलग ब्रांच होते हैं. मेजरली आई कैन से दैट लाइक फिलोसॉफी इज द फादर ऑफ ऑल द ब्रांच, right. Psychology was a part of philosophy until 1870, and after that it became separated. The psychology emerged as a separate discipline in 1879. How? There was a William Bund, a German psychologist, established the world's first psychology laboratory in 1879 in Germany at University of Leipzig. Leipzig. This event is considered as the official start of the psychology. Official start of psychology is a separate scientific discipline. Okay. So psychology emerges as a separate discipline in 1879. So here what happened, like he actually William Wood was a person in Germany, like University of Development. So he actually established a laboratory, and with the help of this laboratory, it becomes a separate. Then emergence of structuralism. Structuralism is widely regarded as the first school of thought of psychology. William Wood and his student Edward B. Titchener advocated structuralism. The William Wood used the method of introspection to study the conscious experience like senses and person. Like William Wood in structuralism, like he is using the introspection method to understand the conscious level of a person. Like for example, consciously I am aware that I am making this video to explain you that what he will do in introspection, he will ask me the question like you are present or not. Yes. Emergence of functionalism. Functionalism was advocated by William James. He is known as the father of American psychology. He emphasized the study of human consciences. Functionalism, how you are functioning. He emerges he was an American psychology, and he studies the emphasis of consciousness. Then psychoanalysis, obviously, like in contrast to the early school of thought, an Austrian physician named Sigmund Freud, like the name is very very common. Sigmund Freud proposed a theory of psychoanalysis in 1890s. He gave importance to the study of unconscious mind. Yes. So now the question coming in, what is conscious and what is unconscious? Conscious is that thing that is in your brain consciously, right now you are conscious. Unconscious means that is behind your mind, what you are thinking actually. Yes. Like right now I am teaching you and you are listening this, and back of your mind you are thinking that I don't have a time, I don't like I don't like this video. Then emergence of psychoanalysis. Now, this is complete. Emergence of behaviorism. So during the early 20th century, an American psychologist again named John B. Watson advocated a new school of thought known as the behaviorism. Behaviorism rejected both the study of conscious experience and unconscious mind, and made psychology a more scientific discipline by focusing on the study of observable behavior. He was an American psychologist. He again in 20th century uh, brought a new school of thought of behaviorism. He thought that he rejected both the conscious mind and unconscious mind, and he thought whatever we are, we cannot see the mind and soul, but we can study the behavior. Yes. Emergence of humanistic psychology. So what is exactly a humanistic psychology? Yes. So the humanistic psychology, the first half of the 20th century was dominated by psychoanalysis. The first half is dominated by psychoanalysis, then and behaviorism. During the second half of the 20th century, Carl Roger, the American psychologist, advocated the new perspective of humanistic psychology. In contrast, the study of unconsciousness advocated by psychoanalysis, and determinism advocated by Behaviorism. Humanistic stresses upon the study of power of free will and self-determinism and self-actualization. So actually, first about the it is dominated by behaviorism and this psychoanalysis. Then Carl Rogers was a person. He actually more focused on the humanistic value, like your free will, your self-actualization, your self-realization. Self-actualization means like after the result you are thinking that like this is the self-actual thing. I need to know that. Okay. And then emergence of cognitism during the 1950s and 1960s. Psychoanalysis and behaviorism were replaced by a new perspective known as cognitism. Like during the 50s and 60s, the psychoanalysis and behaviorism were replaced by a new perspective known as the cognitism. American psychologist named Ulrich Neisser is generally considered as the founder of cognitism. Researchers in cognitive psychology study the higher cognitive processes like memory, decision making, problem solving, intelligence, language, etc. with the tools like MRI and PET scans. MRI and PET scans. Yes. So these are the things like actually is happening. So we have understood about the how history, like how it is started from laboratory, then after that the different behaviorism, then cognitism, humanistic, how it is passes like from 1870 after 18th century, from 19th century to 20th century it ended. Yes. So now uh, the research methods in psychology, like how many research methods are there? Now we will try to understand like the research methods in psychology. Experimental method, like from the name itself, like experimental method is one of the most scientific method of studying behavior. It is the method which has assigned the status of science of to psychology. In experimental method, the experiment conduct experiments using the following steps. Like experiment, like we are conducting in the science. Definitely if I say the experiment Walter, so what you are visualizing, you are visualizing a lab, you are visualizing the test tube, right? So first there are following steps are there in experimental method. First you will identify the problem, then developing a hypothesis cause and effect relationship, then selecting a then you are going to select a experimental design, then standardizing the experimental procedure, conducting an experiment and collecting a data, then collecting you will conduct an experiment collecting a data. Like first of all, for example, if I want to study about the apple, why apple is red, so I will identify the problem. Okay, like this is red because of this, then I will develop a hypothesis, like hypothesis like this is pros and cons. Then I will select experimental design apart from the framework of apple, then conducting an experiment and collecting a data. Then I will conduct an experiment, then I will conduct a collect data, then whatever data I got, like why the apple is red color, so I will analyze this, then I will come to the conclusion, like this is happening. And then learn the key terms of experimental method. Yes, but there some key terms are there problems, like to study the effect of music on the level of blood pressure. The music will help regulating the music will help in regulating the level of blood pressure. So these are the key terms. Yes, some of the important feature of experimental method can be explained as follows. Experimental method is one of the most objective method of collecting data. It is a one of the first of all you need to understand what is subjective and what is objective. Subjective means like open and it is very lengthy. Objective means like MCQ type, you can say in short. Experimental is one of the yes and no questions. It enables accurate observation in control condition. Experimental method helps in finding out the cause and effect relationship between two or more variable. Okay, the findings of the experimental method are verifiable. Whatever you will find, it is verifiable, and you will find the cause and effect relation between two or more variable. Then there is activity 5 are there. So specifically in activity 5, like we can say the dependent, like study the effect of memory. for example the independent variable and dependent variable for experimental, to study the effect of practice on memory, to study the effect of set of problem solving. So these are the activity, like you need to do this activity. Okay, so now let's come to the survey method. Okay, so a survey, like by the name itself, like survey, I like to say that whenever the accurate information is not getting by the particular organization, for example I want to conduct a I want to get information of a police department properly, and they will not say, they are totally busy, so I will survey. I will ask question to the general public, like really they are helping us or not. I will have a survey. So survey is defined as a research method used for collecting a data from a predefined group of a respondent. Okay, predefined group of a, it is actually a research method used for collecting data for a predefined group. We already defined that, like in the questionnaire we will ask this person to gain information and insight on various topics of interest, like to gain information on various topic of interest, particular opinion, consumer, and then preference and etc. Survey method makes makes use of questionnaire, like in this survey method what you are going to make, you will be going to make questionnaire, checklist, rating scale, inventories, interview, etc. To collect the required information. The survey method is largely used by social psychologists, educational psychologists, industrial psychologists. The survey method is the survey method is actually largely used by social psychologists, educational psychologists, and this. Then after that, observational method. It's a very simple, like you are observing. In observation method, it is a research method which is useful in areas of experiment cannot be conducted. Observing, like you are going to, like if the experiments are not conducted in a particular area, then you will observe. Like for example, you cannot experiment eagle. Yes, so you will observe, right? It is a matter in which behavior is observed in a natural laboratory. An observation carried out in natural settings called natural observation. Carried out in laboratory observation. Control observation, like observation is carried out on the natural setting, it's a natural observation. Then laboratory observation. Observation method is widely used by child psychologists, clinical psychologists, social psychologists, etc. Observation method can be treated as a scientific method and will be beneficial when it is used with the specific purpose of the research and plan in a systematic way. Okay, now we will understand the case study method. Case study is one of the qualitative research method used in psychology. Okay, it's a one of the qualitative method used in psychology. This method is mainly used by clinical psychologists. Sigmund Freud and Jean Piaget were the two important figures to use the case study method widely. There was a two-person like Freud and Piaget was actually using this case study method widely. Case study is an in-depth look at the individual, group, or particular event. Case study can be treated as a scientific method as it provides descriptive information, often suggesting hypotheses for further studies. In case in case study method, a research collects information about a particular individual from multiple sources such as the parents, family, peers, teachers, colleagues, etc. to assess the individual current level. There are two types of case study method. The one is the individual and the group. So what is happening over here? Like research. Research collect information on particular individual from multiple sources. Like I'm going to be have a case study. Like I will going to be collect information of Rishi with their parents, family, and all. Okay, a research while using a case study method may use several techniques like observation. Like in this case study method, what I will do, I will interview, I will do a psychologist test and collect information about a particular individual. If I yes, so these are the method. And then correlation studies. Okay, so let's study this, like exactly what activity 9. Anna, or real name, Anna would pick up a glass or bottle. Challenges we will say later. So correlation studies. There are certain scientific studies which make use of correlation as a statistical tool. Understand the relations among variables. Such studies called correlation studies. In correlation, like what you are doing, you are correlating a statistical tool. Understand the relationship among variables. If there is an apple and then if there is a red apple and there is a green apple, you will correlate it and you will understand like why it is different. Okay, correlation is a statistical tool used to measure the relation between two or more variable. If the changes in one variable appears to be accompanied by a change in the other variable, the two variables are said to be correlated, and this interdependence is called correlation. The extent of correlation between two variables measured by correlation coefficient is always a number. For example, the positive correlation is then negative, then zero correlation. So these are the chart is given. So specifically in positive correlation, like for example, if x and y variable, two variables means object, yes, just consider object. So if x is rises, then if obviously b is rises. If falls, it is a positive. Like if the same result are there, so it will be a positive correlation. And if the one is okay and the another one is not okay, so then is negative correlation. If there is no changes there, everyone is same, okay, one is rise, second is fall, so there is a zero correlation. Okay, if one is changes and another one is neutral, so it is a zero correlation. Okay, so I will going to start over here because challenges of psychologists are there. Okay, in this much only. So what are the challenges in establishing a psychology science? So what are the challenges are happen like while establishing the science? Okay, whenever you are establishing something, there will be a problem, right? So challenges, although psychology is considered to be a scientific discipline, it may has many controversies. Controversies and criticism of psychology has been made theoretical, practical, ethical, and philosophical grants. Psychology is a pre-paradigmatic state. In contrast, the nature and natural science, such as the physics, chemistry, psychology is a younger and social science. Though psychology is considered as a science, according to the philosopher named Thomas Kuhn, psychology is still in the pre-pragmatic state. Psychology is not succeeded in cumulative body of knowledge and all. Okay, then issue related to objectivity and validity. Then issue related to objective validity. It is objective. It is validity. Then issue related to predictability, replicability, objective of humans. Okay, then importance of rationality. Rational, first of all, you need to understand what is a rational person. Rational person, like he is perfect in his life. So understanding self-interest and social interest. This is the self-direction, tolerance are there, self-acceptance and self-responsibility. Okay, so thank you. I think so I completed this chapter. So tomorrow we will learn the intelligence. Next video I thought. Okay.